Wendy Liebman, nice Jewish girl from Rosalind, New York. The most gaudy wedding I had ever been to was in Rosalind, Long Island. What is it? You know that?
Was it at Leonard's?
No, it was. I forget, dude. It was. Christ, man, it was 2000 and. Did I graduate college yet? Because I was still drinking. So yeah, so I think it was like 2005, 2006, and it was my cousin got married, and it was just like, I mean, like Hall & Oates were there. Like, it was crazy. It was insane. But it wasn't. I say gaudy's not the right word. I guess just like,
opulent.
Yes, like, like the babies were eating like little crab legs. Like they'd never even eaten.
I just remember there was somebody in my class who had Phoebe Snow play at his bar mitzvah because her real name is Phoebe Loeb and it was his cousin.
Yeah. So growing up in Long Island, like, you're kind of it's always like what, 20 minutes from New York City, the epicenter of the world and where everything is going on. Were you able to like, come in and see music as a teen or even in your early 20s? Or were you already out and doing comedy by that point?
I actually didn't start comedy till after college, and I was in Boston, and that's where I started it. But I do remember one night in high school driving into Manhattan. We went to this club called Danceteria, and I swear I saw Madonna before she was Madonna.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure she was there. Yeah.
What's funny is I went last night to go see Janet Jackson at Prudential Center. Big shout out to my buddy Chris at Live Nation for getting me. I don't think I might as well have been sitting on stage. I was in the 4th row, dead center, seat 6. Like she could spit on me. It's like, it was crazy how close I was to her. And just, she's 58 and you're like, she's killing it. Music, she sounds great. She looks incredible, but she dresses and she's still very confident and sexy, in her way, but she's not trying to be 22 years old. And then I saw Madonna live recently and I was like, all right, Mad, you gotta chill out a little bit. All right.
I mean,
I'm nothing against her. Dude, I love Madonna. Just age. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being in your 60s and being sexy. It's great. And that's what I'm saying is that Janet owns her age, and Madonna, who, I'd say, they're both kind of on that level of like superstars from our, like, our childhood and our teens and our 20s. It's like, man, also
I agree. I remember Madonna and Cyndi Lauper coming up at the same time, and Cyndi is her age now. Like she has aged. I haven't seen that documentary yet, but I can't wait.
Which one?
The Cyndi Lauper one.
Really? That was one of the first episodes we did on the podcast. That might have been, I think, the actual second episode I recorded. I recorded it out of order, but it was Cyndi's debut record. And
no, her documentary just came out.
Sure. No, I would love to watch that because it was such an interesting story. Speaking of which, it was an interesting story to talk about, to really dive in with my researcher, Morty, Simon and Garfunkel. Because when we did Bookends, which I'll get into all this in a second, when we did Bookends, I didn't really prepare as well for it. I listened to the record and then I sat down with, who was our guest? Oh my God. Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Why can't she was friends with Madonna? Christ. Why can't I think of her?
Sandra Bernhard?
Sandra Bernhard, yes, was our guest, and she was phenomenal. But to really find out about the history of this band, which we'll get into all of that. And before we get into that, I just want to get it out of the way because one, I'm a huge fan. I remember your Tonight Show. I remember watching you like when I was, on television when I was younger. So this is a huge opportunity just to have fun and get into this record. And I'm super excited that you're the guest for it. But before we do that, I know you have a lot going on. Please promote away anything you want to promote. What's going on in Wendy World?
Oh, I just do stand-up comedy.
Don't we all?
I have a show on August 24th at a club called Flappers in Burbank.
Love Flappers.
It's
I won.
my show.
I
It's
won the Uncle Chunky comedy competition. I think that's what it's called. That was like one of my first claim to fames at the Flappers.
Uncle Chunky.
Yeah.
The funniest club I ever worked at, the funniest name was, it was in Connecticut in the mid 80s. It was called Sputchies.
Yeah.
And then there's a club called Rooster Tea Feathers. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of yours. I don't know how I found you. I think I found you on Instagram.
Sure.
But I just think you're uber talented.
Oh, thank you.
I've never felt cooler than I do right now to be. I feel like a rock star.
You are,
Josh. I might even trash my hotel room and get a tattoo.
Dude, well, there should be a delivery of cocaine coming because we give it to every guest. We really want you to get jacked up for the podcast. No, that's great. And listen, it's what's so cool about music is that it transcends like age and status and everything. It's literally, regardless of like, I'll listen to, you would look at me and you'd be like, oh, this guy's like rock and roll and Guns N' Roses. I love Simon Garfunkel. I love jazz. I love everything. And I love this podcast because it really gives me a chance to like sit down with people that I respect and talk about these records. And it's really this really cool, like meeting point where it's like you said, it's like, dude, I feel cool just having you on. So thank you.
Wow.
Go see Wendy at Flappers. She
tattoos.
rules. Please. Oh my God. So wait, before I get into this record, because we got so much to go over, like, have you seen Simon and Garfunkel live? Have you seen just Simon or Garfunkel?
We saw, my husband and I saw Simon and Garfunkel probably early 2000s. I think it was then because I left my cell phone at the Staples Center and I remember it was a flip phone. So it was like really early on. And somebody turned it in probably because it was a flip phone. But we were, it was their reunion tour. And I just remember right before they sang Sound of Silence, echoes and then somebody right in front of us yells out, woohoo, Sound of Silence, so that everybody at the fucking Staples Center heard them say that. It was just the most, it was bad timing.
Sure. I bet at a Simon and a Garfunkel concert, anything that anybody says is going to be heard because it's such a, it's like they're the,
Precious.
Oh my God, what is his fucking name? Why can't I think of who's that comic? He's got kind of bald and he talks kind of Steve talks like this. What is his name? Not Steve. Jesus Christmas. My brain is so
give me more clues.
He's like clues. Absurd. He's like, he was the guy on the couch in Half Baked. Stephen Wright. Yeah. It's like you could hear a pin drop at a Stephen Wright concert, at a Stephen Wright, thing, because everybody's paying attention to every word, just like he's the Simon and Garfunkel, like energy wise.
This is so funny that you said that because I watched Stephen Wright on my little black and white TV in my college dorm room on The Tonight Show. And I thought, this is the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life. And then I turned it off. And then like 2 days later, I flew home to New York and I'm sitting in my seat and Stephen Wright walks by and I was like, I know him. And then I was like, who is that? I couldn't like place it because I had just seen him. And I go, oh, that's Art Garfunkel.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Well, Artie.
And then I remembered who it was, and I figured it out. And then I was going to say something to Stephen Wright as he got off the plane, and he never got off the plane. It was like such a Stephen Wright moment. But anyway, I've since met him, and he's so cool. And he wrote a great book.
Oh, it's so great. Well, I could see how that influenced you and your style because it's not completely the same at all, but it's like there is a similarity in it with like the misdirection, the lowering of the voice, that you kind of, that was the moment, the black and white TV in the dorm room.
Right. It was. I'm really absurd. And as I've done this longer, I've done this like 40 years.
Yeah. Like crazy.
I get slower and softer. Like I watch early tapes of mine and I'm like, no, slow down, bitch. But now, yeah, I think I just exhausted myself and now I'm really slow on stage. I'm taking my time.
Dude, please just like literally just let it out as slow as you want. Burbank's the perfect place for that, dude.
Right.
My buddy Angelo Bowers, who's one of the reasons we do this podcast, he had a joke. He's like, I just ran the Burbank Marathon. There's no actual winner of the Burbank Marathon. You just run until you're tired of Burbank.
Burbank looks like a city that stopped in the 70s.
Yeah, they gave up. It's literally, I think that's where they shot some of like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it still hasn't changed from 1986 or I think whenever that came out. It still has that same vibe. There are updated restaurants, but besides the point. All right, you know what's funny? Right now there's somebody, a fan of this podcast, that's like, get into the album. All right. So we've done bookends.
How do you know that?
Because I know my fans. I know the people that listen to this.
You're not getting messages.
No, God, no. Because it's also Morty, the guy that helps me write the show, that really like, you don't understand. I've been on the phone with my writer Morty since I'm in New York. It's 1:11 p.m. I just got off when you signed on. I think 9:30, 10 a.m. So I've been on for 3 hours talking about the history of Simon and Garfunkel, and he writes all this stuff with, and for me, and he goes over it. So because I don't want to come off sounding stupid or missing something important, because I know if you know this, Wendy, music is so important to so many people. So, because this record could be like, they played it at my dad's funeral. This is the song I fell in love to, and if you critique it in a way, or you don't give it the kudos it deserves, I might not like it, but somebody thinks this is the greatest album ever made. So I try to give everything the respect it deserves. But I do have fans that, they will shit on me and they're like, you don't know anything. Get into the record. What are you talking about? And it's like, okay, dude.
Well, so that's why you have Wayne Fetterman on, because he knows everything about everything. Right?
Wayne's my.
I actually wrote to him before this because I was like, because I know he's done a lot of these.
He's done 11 of them. It's when we need Wendy. When we need he's the best. When we need somebody, it's like, this record is so. It's like Blind Willie Jenkins from 1922, and it's like, get Fetterman. Get Fetty Wap, because he'll know. And he comes in prepared. It was actually really sweet. The last time he came on, he did Cream, and he was so excited. It was like when I texted him, do you want to do Cream? He was so excited because it was an album that he actually really loved, and it was great. So he'll probably come on, since we have another 200 episodes of this to go. He'll probably come on many, many more times. But
wow.
I
mean, your producer reached out to me a couple of times about albums I had no idea about. So this album, I didn't know about this album either. I'm a huge Simon and Garfunkel fan, but
really?
I didn't know this album. Yeah, I think I grew up with their greatest hits album,
which
1972.
Which is funny, because as we were talking about, me and my writer, it was like everybody had that. That was like the Eagles' greatest hits. That's like Bob Marley Legend. It was in everybody's household. Well, here, let me tell you a little bit about this to catch you up, so we know.
Oh, I've done a deep dive. I know.
I've got to do it.
I did my homework.
Well, I'm glad. I've got to do it for that guy that's sitting there like, sure. I don't know who. All right, so our record today, let me pull it up. Our record today is Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme by Simon and Garfunkel, released October 24th, 1966. It's quick, man. 27 minutes and 55 seconds, dude. Produced by Bob Johnston. And this came out right after their album Sound of Silence and The Graduate. Now, to give you a little skadoodle, so we've done Bookends, which is a record right after this. So just to recap, Queens, New York neighborhood and elementary school friends Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. By the way, Wendy, jump in at any moment if there's anything you want to say, okay?
Okay.
Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel started their careers together in the early 50s. Like many of their contemporaries, they were inspired by the birth of rock and roll and especially the Everly Brothers, and learned to harmonize similarly with their street corner doo-wop group, the Peptones. A few years later, as a duo, they released a few singles as Tom and Jerry to some local success, but broke up in 1958 so they could pursue solo careers as well as go to college. After neither of them had much solo success either, they got back together in 1963 during the growing folk scene and quickly got signed to Columbia Records under their own names. Their first record, Wednesday Mornings, 3 a.m., a pretty standard folk record of the time with 5 songs written by Simon and some traditional songs, sold very poorly. Discouraged, Paul left to go to England for a solo career and to hone his craft. He found some songwriting success and released some singles and had Art visit him for some gigs, but eventually Art moved back to New York to go to college, followed by Paul. However, this is where it gets interesting. In 1965, or by 1965, a more confident Paul returned to England to got a record deal. His first solo album, the Paul Simon Songbook, didn't sell well, but it featured some of the strongest songs he had written for the duo's first album and since. Meanwhile, back in the States, this is where it gets cool. A radio station started playing a song from their debut, The Sound of Silence, and it picked up popularity. Producer Tom Wilson, who signed them and produced their debut, took that original acoustic duo recording and added a band behind them in hopes of capitalizing on the song's current success and the rise of folk rock, like Wilson had done with Bob Dylan. The song went to #1. Simon came home and reunited with Simon and Garfunkel. They began touring and quickly recorded their follow-up, Sounds of Silence, in 66. And it was a rush to keep the momentum going. It included several songs from Paul's solo album. It was also a success and set up this record. Despite near complete control, a huge and growing budget, including getting Columbia to buy an 8-track recording machine so they could overdub more intricate vocal harmonies, and more time, Paul still felt all the pressure, making it difficult to write enough material. So the album contains reworkings of songs from his solo record, some of the singles previously released or recorded for the last album, some rewritten material, and some traditional songs. Despite all of that, it was another success, and it was regarded as their first masterpiece. That catches you up. Is that everything you knew?
Yes, and I found out that Paul has like a twin brother. He's not a twin, but they look like twins.
Really?
He's his younger brother. Yes, and they played together once live. And
really?
That's on YouTube. Yes.
Morty, what the fuck, dude? You should have had this for me. I had no idea.
His name is Eddie or Ed, and it's creepy because they look so similar.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that.
That's not part of the album.
No. But I dig that. Here's the thing about, which we'll get into, about Paul Simon. There's some stuff. We have a thing on this podcast. We have a hashtag. Are you pulling him up? There he is. Look at that. Looks just like him.
I know, dude. It's creepy.
Yeah, he is kind of like an Omen version of him.
Right?
Yeah.
And I watched the documentary about Paul Simon.
You love him? You a fan of him now, or like it makes you feel good, better, worse?
I was wowed by his talent. Like, I think he's really talented.
Yeah.
And I want to live in the house in Texas. It's on a farm. But no, I loved watching the documentary about him. Yeah. But I love Art Garfunkel so much, although he's like a +1. He's like the +1.
What do you mean? Well, he's not the guest. He's not the main guest. He's the guy that's coming. He's gonna eat all the hors d'oeuvres.
I love his voice so I love his voice so much. And I also love his story. Like he wandered around, he walked through Europe.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get into all this. This is you
All
get ready.
right. I'll shut up.
No, don't shut up. No, don't shut up. Because I'm gonna ask you a question in a second. So here, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme Canticle, if I said that right. Yeah. The album begins and ends with songs that weave together poignant and plaintive tunes with dark subjects. Paul had learned the traditional title tracks while in England and added a rewritten anti-war lyric he had from previous song, The Side of a Hill, as a counterpoint. The main song's melody had been passed down for many years and had even been borrowed along with some lines by Bob Dylan for Girl from the North Country a couple years earlier. Even though the song was traditional, credit was taken by Simon and Garfunkel. So Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, let's add some oregano and garlic to the title and talk about your recent sing-along at Vitello's restaurant with our friend Morty, my writer, his friend, and Neil Diamond's bassist, Bill Sinkay. Your husband, of course, comes from a serious pedigree musical family. I had gratefully figured out how to merge my two passions the same way by combining comedy and music. How long have you been mixing comedy and music?
Josh, that was the first time.
No way.
It was the first time. I've been performing at Vitello's, producing my show, Locally Grown Comedy there. I did it for like 8 years. And then they reconfigured the room and it wasn't conducive to stand up because the comedians were on level with the audience. And
yeah, it's weird.
I've performed that way before, but it wasn't right. And there was the lighting sucked and for comedy. So I said to the owner, can I do something else here? Something that I've been thinking about for years, and that is a sing-along, an audience sing-along. And it was just one of these dreams I had. It wasn't karaoke. It was that I had these two musicians, Bill Sinkay and Jeff Allen Ross, who played with Badfinger in their second incarnation. And they both Bill and Jeff Allen play with Peter Asher. And I invited them.
Wait, hold on. Peter Asher from Apple Records.
Yeah.
And he's been on the podcast. He hated me. He hated. He didn't mean him. I thought because
how do you know?
Because dude, the audience, I got shit on big time.
Why did he hate you?
He didn't hate me. I'm saying I didn't mean to interrupt, but like I was like, I don't know. I speak in this weird language sometimes that me and my buddy Angela used to talk where I just make up words, but like you can kind of understand the meaning. And I would ask him questions and I would throw those words in and he would just look at me like I was slow. And then finally he started loosening up. And by the end of it, we were having fun, but it was just, yeah, man, it was not tense. My finest hour. It was, well, I wouldn't say tense as much as I would say he just
make up a word. It
was good. It was gashluki. It was a gashluke, 100%. But that's what happens, man. You know. But big ups to him. I'll be doing Peter. I love you, buddy. I hope you're doing well.
I've never met him, but both Bill and Jeff play with him.
Yeah.
And he produces James Taylor's Kate Taylor. So anyway, I invited their friends. They've been friends for a while. And I invited them to play. And I handed out lyrics to everybody in the audience. I had kazoos and egg shakers and castanets and reading glasses. If you forgot like I was prepared. And everybody sang everything. Even people that said they weren't going to sing, they were just going to sit there. And it was epic. It was like my dream come true. And I'm scared to do it again because it'll never be as good. I know you do
The goddamn comedy
rock
jam.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, which actually the 10-year anniversary is coming up July 21st. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
it really is, because my life's been completely different. That's the exact day we did the first one in 2014. So my life's been different ever since then.
And how did you come up with that?
Just I've told this story a million times on the podcast, but I'll tell you quickly. It's just, I've sang my whole life. I played music my whole life, and I've tried to be funny my whole life. And so I had a buddy, Angelo, who just said, dude, you seem so happy doing stand-up and you're great at it. But he goes, but there's definitely you singing and playing music is really where your heart is. You know that. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, try to figure out a way to combine them. I'm not saying be a musical comic, but just try to figure out. And so I got to a place after some success that it was just like flat. And I said, I'm going to try this show where comedians sing. And it's just everything. Bill Burr became involved, and the band I'd known for years became involved, and we found the right venue, and just every little piece just kind of connected. And since then, I literally get to do. I created the job that I've always wanted, and yeah, man.
That's how it was with my sing along. Just every piece fell into place.
That's why you don't want to do it again and ruin it.
Kind of.
Yeah, I get it. You got it.
But how often do you do that?
We do it once a month, and then I tour with it. And then my stand-up set, when I'm here at the Comedy Cellar, they have a band. And so I just do that all the time. I sing, even if I don't have a band, I sing. I'm just constantly like my favorite thing to do is like to guess the music people fuck to. And like, I'll be like, you look like you fucked Mamas and the Papas. And then I sing a little bit of it. And it does, all I'm doing is just jukeboxing it, but people love it. And it's just, you fucked, I'm never going to give you up. Never going to, I just do that. And it's it. That's a wrap. And that's going to make a whole
I wanted to do an album called Jokes to Make Love By.
That's great. That's great. But, do it.
But that guy is waiting for us to talk about.
Let's dig in.
Let's name him. What's his name?
It's
just make one up. It's Billy.
No, it's not Billy. It's got to be like like Harry, like a Henry,
Chuck.
like just Chuck's a good one. Yeah, Chuck's angry. Chuck's angry at me, and then he's also angry. He's the guy that's got like 8. He follows 1,000, but he's got 3 followers, and it's like him. He's commenting, getting mad. He's commenting at like the president, like he's gonna see it, But I do see it. Like Biden and Trump don't see it. I see it. I am the one that looks at my comics like an idiot. Chuck, it's okay, buddy. Don't worry. Guess what? We're going to talk about patterns now. But big shout out to Bill Sinkay. Do you know how long have you known Bill?
Like 10 years. I just love him. He has the most incredible voice. He's so talented. And they both have great senses of humor. And they are in a band called the Hall of Fame Band.
Yeah.
With Rob Bonfiglio, who
what a name. That's a mouthful.
I know. He's married to Carney Wilson.
Oh, okay.
And he is Wilson Phillips' musical director, and he also plays with, I don't know if it's the Beach Boys or Brian Wilson. I think it's Brian Wilson. But he's in the band, and then a drummer whose name I'm blanking out.
What's his? Probably is it another Italian name? It's like Brian Baba Fangul.
No, it's Alice. Something Alice.
Yeah.
Allis. But anyway, they play in the Hall of Fame band. They're amazing because they each come from like Neil Diamond and Badfinger. So they play songs of bands that they've been in, and they sound just fucking incredible.
Definitely. I'd love to see that. It sounds great. And and also he played with Neil Diamond. So
yeah,
that to me that's the artist that got away. The one that I always wish I could have seen live. That's just it.
He's still alive though, right?
But he's not touring though. He has Parkinson's. I know.
Well, Art Garfunkel lost his voice for a while. And then I just saw in that documentary about Paul Simon, he is losing his hearing.
Really?
So, yeah. And I know musicians who lost their hearing because they're drummers, or like that's a collateral damage of being a
Sure,
rock star.
sure. Yeah,
Being a
I've
rock
definitely
star.
sure. No, I have right here. I have these incredible earplugs I wear when I go to concerts, and you know, when I play music, I wear my in-ears. So yeah, I'm surprised I still have my hearing. But you know, Chuck, hold on.
You're
Don't
young.
worry, Chuck. Chuck, chill out, Chuck. I'm sorry we're talking about this. All right, buddy.
Chuck.
Chuck. All right, patterns. Let's talk about patterns. All right. This captures the angry young man's desperation while comparing life to the sort of rat mazes that scientists use to study their behaviors. With so much monotony and burnout possible after years in comedy, how do you keep things fresh?
I don't perform that much. That's my answer. I don't perform that much. But also, how do I keep things fresh? Okay, so when I first started, I wrote down every word and I didn't veer from that. And then I saw Jake Johansson perform like 3 nights in a row at Catch Rising Star in Cambridge, Massachusetts, my home club. And he mixed things up. Like he wasn't verbatim. And I thought, oh my God, I can do that. And now I go up, I have no idea what I'm going to say. I mean, I sort of know what I'm going to start with, but I find surprising myself makes it fresh for me. I mean,
Yes.
they're jokes I wrote, but it's like they're all back here.
Yes.
And I love talking to the audience. Yeah, I find it keeps it fresh for me if I don't know exactly what I'm going to say.
No, you have to. I know I don't go into with like, I know I have so much material and it's like, I know what I can do, but I like to see if I can figure it out there. Now, if I'm going to get tape a special, which I'm going to do at the end of the year, I'm going to make sure I lay it out and I'm doing it in an order, but just a regular set. Oh man, I'm having more fun than the audience is having. So that's how I keep it fresh. Seriously.
Where are you doing your special?
I don't know yet. We're all working on it. I have my director, Eric Abrams, and we've talked about maybe doing it because I want to have the band and I want to do it like open with music, do some stand-up, go back to music, do some stand-up, go back to music, and end with music, but not even like pre-written songs, just kind of the things that I do. So we don't know. Maybe the Viper.
Is that your first? That's not your first special, is it?
It will be. I've had a bunch of sets. I've done short sets on Netflix. I've done short sets on Comedy Central. I haven't done late night. Well, I did. No, I didn't do late night. It's now defunct. Nouveau TV. I did do stand up on that, but
what's Nouveau TV?
It was a network or something. It was like a Spanish Latino. You don't remember it? You remember what was the NBC one? Fucking oh my God. What was that called? Why am I having a brain fart?
Telemundo?
Not no, not it was CISO. Yeah. God, I'm so like
Quibi.
Well, Quibi, that was the first that was the first thing that fell from the pandemic. That was the first victim of COVID. That literally came out like 3 days after COVID, right? And then it was created to watch in a bank line, and then and then it just was like nobody's just leaving the house
on their TV.
Oh man, that's
during the pandemic. I got something called Amazonnesia, and that's when you get a box and you're like, "What did I order?" I'm just doing material for you.
No, I love that. Dude. I said, I was talking to a comedian. We were talking about what we're going to do if we ever make Bill Gates type money. And I go, man, I'm going to have so many Amazon packages delivered daily. Like just every day.
I feel so dumb, but I order stuff like nail polish and it comes like in a little bag. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I could go to CVS.
No, it's much easier. I live in New York, so ordering stuff here is like it's the only way to get it. So you're fine. You're fine.
My parents live in New York. They moved from Long Island and they retired in New York City because they love going to theater. And so anyway, that
All right.
was a
Oh, that's great.
margin.
Let's all right. Let's talk cloudy. Let's talk cloudy.
Oh, are we done with patterns?
Do you
Because
want to say anything? Please add anything.
I have a list of the song, like I put them in not order, but I
Don't
wrote
tell me your
meh.
favorite yet. Don't tell me your
No, I
favorite yet. But if
won't.
you have thoughts, please, please jump
But
in.
I have meh for patterns and big bright green pleasure machine.
Wait, hold on. Don't jump to that one yet. We got to get to that later.
Okay,
That's
all right.
another
So we're on
meh.
cloudy.
We're on
Cloudy is
cloudy. But
okay.
patterns, you wrote meh, M-E-H.
I did.
What made you say meh about it?
It felt
Felt meh.
like he was trying too hard.
Wow.
I don't know.
No, hey, please be honest.
I'm sure he
Chuck
doesn't
is
love
pissed.
I'm sure he doesn't love all of my jokes.
All right, well, let's see. Let's talk cloudy. Maybe don't tell me your reaction yet. But cloudy is no pun intended, a breezy number from the perspective of a hitchhiker in Northern California. All right, what did you review on cloudy? What did you write?
I said it was okay. I mean, it's interesting that it was about a hitchhiker because a lot of their music, or Paul Simon's music, is about traveling, buses and trains and walking.
Homeward.
And
Yeah.
later, like his last album, it's about flying. So it's all about like movement and going somewhere. That was just an observation I made.
No, and I think that I was talking to Morty about it. I think like he just like walks around and goes, "All right, this is a candle, and that's a light post, and that's a this," and he just puts it all into his song. It's just like a little jambalaya.
It's a little like Sondheim.
Yes. Cloudy. So they say that travel though broadens the mind. Have you ever taken off on a trip to explore or find yourself?
Yes, I have. I went to Hawaii. I do something called the Alexander technique.
Oh my God. Yeah. With your body and you have to. Yeah. Colin Quinn recommended that to me because of my voice. Yep. And I went to a guy who actually just passed away.
Oh, because it's all about elongating your spine, and they teach it at Juilliard because it's about using your body as a part of it's an instrument, basically, your body is. And Alexander found that his voice was suffering. So he like studied himself in mirrors, and he saw that he was like compressing his neck. And that's why his voice was disturbed. So anyway, I went on a retreat on I'd never done anything like this before. It was probably 28 years ago, but we went to Hawaii with like 5 people, and it was just, it was very reflective.
Good. Yeah.
And it was Hawaii. Have you ever gone?
I backpacked through Europe. I left Europe. I dropped out of college and I backpacked Europe for about 6.5, 7 months. When I was 18, about to turn 19, because I inherited some money and I was like lost and a record. It's funny because I talked about this, but OK Computer by Radiohead. It was just, I had just gotten into Radiohead, like really became one of my favorite bands. And it was like, there's that moment where you're like, the record is written about me. And it just, I was like, I'm not saying it said like tune in, drop out type shit, but it just felt like college didn't feel right at the moment. And so I went to go find myself.
I couldn't afford Europe after college, so I went backpacking through Epcot Center.
That's good. That was a good one.
Just doing my material for you. Dude, stop me.
Oh, come on, dude. You quit.
I just want to make Josh laugh.
You got me. Don't even worry.
Okay.
Don't even worry. That's so crazy, the Alexander technique. I love that you brought that up. I need to remember.
Oh, it changed my life.
Yeah.
It changed my life because I lost. My mother said when I first started doing stand-up that I like slouched on stage like Woody Allen, like I was hunched over. And she heard about this thing called the Alexander technique. So it changed my life. I would be like a shriveled up
I need to start doing it more because I actually just had vocal cord surgery. So, but I need to do it. Like I had a polyp and I had scar tissue that I needed removed. And now my voice is like, I mean, it's still always going to be like gravelly and deep, but it's basically back to where it was pre all the issues. So, and with that and the Alexander technique, like I'm in a good position.
Well, they said that Art Garfunkel scarred his vocal cords.
Acid reflux?
No, he choked on some lobster. This is not I read that.
No, I feel like I've heard that too. Yeah. Oh,
and then I read that he said, yes, that happened, but it wasn't the only thing that contributed to the demise of his vocal cords. But I think he said they're back now.
Oh, so. Of all the things, lobster.
I know.
Like, as a Jew, shellfish. My God, it's like.
Well, no wonder it's trafe.
Yeah.
I actually don't like lobster. Like, I don't like it.
What?
I know. Like, what's wrong with me?
It's insane. I was just in Connecticut. I was just in Connecticut with my dog.
Stop bragging. Okay. You were in Connecticut with your dog?
I bring my dog here. Hold on. Lekka. Lekka, sit.
What is that, a Dachshund?
No, it's a Doberman Pinscher.
Oh.
But
did you just French kiss your dog?
Yeah, dude. We got a problem with that?
Yeah, my dogs love Simon and Garfunkel.
Do they really? Lekka's more of a Slipknot fan.
Oh.
She likes metal. But we got lobster. She eats lobster. I'll show you this video. I'll send it to Adam right now.
You must be doing great, Josh.
I'm not doing bad. I'll tell you that much. I'm not doing bad, but I also don't. Adam, I'm going to send you a video of my dog eating lobster. Fuck, where's that? Who did I send it to? Oh, Justine. No, money. I'm not saying money isn't an issue, but it is. Because
I was just being funny. You don't have to explain yourself.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because
I have two dogs. I have Jindos. Have you ever heard of the Jindo?
No, I haven't.
They're rescued from Korea.
Really?
They were going to be in a meat market. This is not a joke. They were rescued from being eaten for real.
Really?
They are the delicacy. And they're also like, where's your dog?
Was she?
That's a Jindo. That's not my dog though, but that is a Jindo. Mine are cuter.
Oh, Jesus.
But
mine's better. I'll tell you this, my dog's better trained than your dogs. I'll tell you that much.
My dogs are as trainable as a carrot. They are, but they're self-cleaning.
Good. Yeah. Lekka's hypoallergenic too. Yeah.
But one of them is, and I'm not joking, on the spectrum. And I asked the vet if there could be an autistic dog, and he said yes, if they're taken away from their mother too soon. So we basically have a feral cat in the shape of a Jindo living in our house. But I love them. They're my best friends.
I love that. No, I love that. Dogs rule.
I never had one before I was in my 40s, so that changed it changed my life.
I bring her everywhere because she's 7, and I tour so much that I was like, I'm not going to go another moment of my life without bringing that dog with me everywhere. And she's a service animal, so I can bring her anywhere. Yep. You'll see. Adam.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, Adam, I just sent you a video. You eventually pull it up. Don't pull it up right now, but we'll watch that right at the end. Cool.
I travel with an emotional
support
box of Cheez-Its.
Shut up. That's a good one. Cheez-Its rule. Hold on. All right, let's move on. Hold on. As we noted on the Los Lobos episode, Paul had some disputes about songwriting credits. Paul, oh wait, you're playing it right now? Okay. Just play it. Play it now, Adam. You already started. There you go. There's my dog.
Oh my God.
Like a dog. Everybody gets to see. All right, where was I? All right. As we noted on the Los Lobos episode, Paul had some disputes about songwriting credits. Paul met Bruce Woodley of the New Seekers while in England, and the two co-wrote several songs together, including Red Rubber Ball, which became a million seller for The Circle. Although co-written by them both, Woodley's name was left off Cloudy's credits on this record. Presumably, lawyers were called and it got worked out. Homeward Bound. All right.
That's in my top
That's it?
5.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, this is
I
great.
love that song.
Paul moved to England in 64 when he was 22, and there he met 16-year-old Kathy Chitty, and they started a relationship. While he played all over England, he missed being with her and started to write the lyrics in various train stations. In fact, in the Widnes station, there's a plaque to commemorate Paul's writing of the song there in 1965. Kathy traveled back to America with him to visit. He came back to England to be with her until the surprise success of the updated version of The Sound of Silence. As Kathy was shy and private, she didn't want to deal with Paul's new fame and broke up with him. Her name or their relationship was mentioned or alluded to in several other songs, including Kathy songs, America, and the late, great Johnny Ace. Thoughts on Homeward Bound?
I just want to say that there's a plaque up at a Burger King. That's where I wrote a joke about a piñata.
Which one?
No, about a piñata.
No, not the piñata joke. Which Burger King?
Which Burger King in Massachusetts?
Nice.
Chicopee.
Chicopee. Okay.
So I read that about Kathy Chitty, and I thought, that's interesting. I've never heard that as a name, but my father-in-law and his brother wrote the music for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So that was my train of thought.
Is that true?
That is true.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, they wrote, that's not Disney, but they wrote a lot of the music for Disney. They wrote Mary Poppins and The Jungle Book and the music.
Yeah.
And the song It's a Small World, which is probably like the most played song on the planet.
I feel like I have a question about that. I'm going to ask you later. I think maybe I don't. But yeah, I remember he was telling me about that. Morty. Oh, well, no, I have this coming up. All right. Well, here, I guess the question I have for this is who was your biggest inspiration? Who's been your biggest? Like, what inspires you? Who inspires you?
You mean comedy wise?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I grew up watching Lily Tomlin and doing her characters for my father, and I loved making my father laugh. And I still do. He's like my best audience. And then I got more. Oh, and I remember watching Phyllis Diller on Merv Griffin or Mike Douglas, and she said, just when you make them laugh and they think that they're done laughing, you have to hit them again. And I'm like 11, and I go, I know what you mean, lady. So I always had that sense of taglines to jokes.
Yeah. Let's talk about, all right, so you Homeward Bound in your top 5. What about the big bright green pleasure machine? Thoughts on that?
Like what? Yeah, I do like there's like a little guitar riff in there that I like.
Yeah.
But I can't conjure it right now. I just wrote that down while I was listening to it. But even my dogs were like, no.
Oh. Well, it's cynical and satirical take on the consumer and pop culture and the advertising firms on Madison Avenue who are responsible for much of it. It said Paul conceived the song while watching his laundry agitate in a London washing machine. What are your thoughts on comics and performers these days and how much self-promotion and advertising we have to do on social media? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about comedians and their laundry. It's like a second job, and I'm older than people who are really into promoting themselves. Yeah, I see people now promoting, like posting clips of their stand-up. ad nauseum. Maybe, I guess it gets you an audience, a
It
following.
really, well, it's unfortunate. Well, it's not unfortunate. It's fortunate because you don't need these gatekeepers anymore. So we can create it on our own through social media.
Right. I do like that. And I also feel like I can write whatever I want on social media too. So I can post whatever I want. And I'm on all of them except TikTok. I have like maybe a few videos up on TikTok, but
TikTok is
it's like I don't the thing that I don't like about social media is like I have to like the same joke of a friend of mine on each platform. Like I liked it on Twitter, or X, I liked it on Facebook, I liked it on Instagram. Now I liked it on Threads. It's too much.
Yeah, no, completely. You're not wrong. Everything you're saying is 100% right. The 59th Street Bridge song, Feelin' Groovy, named for New York's Queensboro Bridge that spans between Queens and Manhattan. Paul was inspired while walking on it, including references to the cobblestones and the lampposts, which are still there. To strengthen the jazzy swing of the recording, they are backed by the Dave Brubeck Quartet's rhythm section of Eugene Wright and double bass and Joe Morello on drums. Although the song is beloved and has been covered plenty of times, including Harper's Bazaar's hit version the next year, they felt this was too poppy and simple, which is another reason Paul didn't want to call it Feeling Groovy. And while it seems like an obvious choice for a single, it was actually too short for radio. Thoughts on this song?
I like this song. It kind of reminds me of high school. I'm wondering if I should go to my high school reunion that I was just invited to. I'm not sure that I want to. I should.
Yes. Why not?
I don't know. One year they asked me to perform at my high school reunion. I'm like, oh, so I can feel alienated again. I like that song. I don't love it, but I like it. It's in my like. Yeah, I like it.
It's in your like. It's not a meh.
It's not a meh.
All right. Well, being that the song's but feeling groovy, what makes you feel groovy?
I actually looked up when they first used that word, because I was like, is that a word that he sort of put into the vernacular? But it was like in the 1800s, the word groovy was
really
used. Yeah. Have Morty check.
Morty, Chuck, Morty or Chuck, one of you guys. It looks like
what makes me feel groovy?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Makes you feel groovy?
I don't even know what.
So you checked it when it came out, but you didn't look at what it meant.
No, I know what it means, but like I think of Austin Powers, and there was a teacher in my elementary school who used to run these like groovy weekends for swinging singles.
Yeah.
And everybody went to the Hamptons. I mean, not the kids. He did this for the parents. And it was like they had key parties. And so I think of that as groovy. Yeah. Bell bottoms make me feel groovy.
Okay, so you're taking it back to the 60s.
Yeah.
What makes you feel? How about this? What makes you feel cool today? What makes Wendy Liebman this?
Being on Josh's podcast.
I love that. Do you want to hear something cool though? In a rare turnabout, Paul ended up suing Sid and Marty Croft for plagiarizing this for the theme of the late 60s psychedelic culture children's show, HR Puffin Stuff. His name is now included with theirs as songwriter. This is a reoccurring thing with Paul Simon. He's very litigious, very, very litigious. You know, it's funny that he's doing this.
Weren't they sued for Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme because somebody gave them this song?
Adam, look that up. Morty didn't get to go.
Like it's an old Gaelic song.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Scarborough Fair, it's like it has that like you know,
Yeah.
la 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 la, the king and the queen and the muppet and the scrumpet and the doodly doo. That's what it's like. It's very, it's HR Puffin stuff. It looks like, yeah.
I know. I'm picturing women in
corsets and,
like
the big dresses.
Yes. Yeah.
Be like, should we go to the ball? It feels groovy, doesn't it? This corset makes me feel so groovy.
A big turkey leg.
Ah, dude.
The Renaissance Fair.
Oh yeah. I remember I went to a Renaissance Fair in Northridge, and then I went out and I was eating the turkey leg as we went to the car, and there was like a homeless guy, and I was like, "Hey man, do you want this?" He goes, "I'm not." He's like, "No, it looks ridiculous." I was like, all right.
We once tried to give a homeless woman a tuna fish sandwich in New York City, and she looks in, she goes, "I didn't want tuna." So from then on, we were like, beggars can be choosers.
Yeah.
But wait, you said the funniest thing I've ever heard. I think the sentence that you just said. I went to a Renaissance Fair in Northridge. I don't know why that just made me crack up.
That is such a shit area. Yeah. You get deep out into California, man. You get out of Los Angeles and it just gets weirder and weirder. Even Calabasas is a fucking joke. Like it's so,
Hey,
like
hey, I live near there.
Oh, where do you live in? Hidden Hills? Are you
West Hills?
So I worked for the Kardashians for a year. It was my first job in LA. So I was in Calabasas and Hidden Hills. You know what? You know the people I hate the most in LA? The Topanga Canyon people. Oh, the Topangas. Oh, they're like, oh, I won't have dairy, but I'll do this. I'll take Xanax every day. You know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Oh my God, they don't have phones. Well, my husband wrote on a sitcom called Boy Meets World.
Oh, I remember that.
They named Topanga after Topanga Canyon. The little girl.
Yeah. Sure. No, I get it. Where were we?
You were saying about turkey legs and
that's besides the point. Let's get into the dangling conversation. The second single was reportedly both of their favorites at the time, and they expected it to be a huge hit, but it wasn't. And with that disappointment, they've become dismissive of it. It perfectly captures a tender moment of being young and in college and in love. It's all gentleness, in all of its gentleness, preciousness, hypocrisy, and pretentiousness. What do you look back on in your earlier stuff with embarrassment?
My haircut.
Really?
I had really short hair. Somebody goes, "Why did you?" It was somebody who works at the Comedy Cellar, Dave Juskow. He goes, "Why did you have such short hair?" I go, "I guess I didn't have any friends." I mean, I did, but yeah, I look back with embarrassment and some of my earlier jokes. But about that song, I thought I read that Art Garfunkel thought it was pretentious, but I might have the wrong song. But he didn't want to sing it.
Yeah, that was
Morty.
Morty, where are you, buddy? He's talking to Chuck right now. Let's see. Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall. What did you think of Dangling Conversation? Forgot to ask you that. Did you enjoy it or?
It's in my okay pile.
Okay, good. All right. Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall. An introspection that includes an actual reflection similar to Patterns. This is just another nice pop tune. Any thoughts on it?
No.
Okay.
But there were two songs that had it sounded like Homeward Bound a little. Now I have to find it.
Yeah, figure out which one that was. I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it was Cloudy. The beginning is similar to Homeward Bound.
Yes.
And Homeward Bound is just better. And Flowers That Never Bend also has a little riff that sounds like Homeward Bound too. Those are just the notes that I took.
Totally. I completely agree with you. A simple desultory Philippic
I have to Google it. I don't know what desultory means.
Neither do I.
And I didn't Google it, but I was like, no.
What does it mean?
I didn't Google it. I
you
don't
didn't.
know what it
yeah,
means.
fuck it. how I was Robert McNamara into submission. A simple, okay, here we go. I got it. A simple, desultory Philippic would be a simple, random, disconnected, angry tirade. That's what it is.
Is that the one where he is like doing Dylan and talking about Mahler or Mailer?
Yes.
Okay.
So another from Paul's solo album. This is a parody of Bob Dylan with many references, but specifically based on Dylan's 65 rambling and cryptic masterpiece, Subterranean Homesick Blues. This includes a less than proficient sounding harmonica and a comical reference to Dylan's manager, Albert Grossman. The original subtitle was Or How I Was, Lyndon B. Johnson in a submission. Robert McNamara was the former CEO of Ford, who became the long-serving U.S. Secretary of Defense under Kennedy. And Johnson, it was one of the architects and champions of the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. He quit in 1968 to lead the World Bank and fight poverty and become vocally critical and contrite about the war and his responsibility for it. So real lighthearted stuff right there.
I lost you at harmonica.
I liked this song. I mean, it wasn't, it's, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's like everything on this record I liked. I didn't dislike any of it. There's some stuff that I was like, all right, it's fine, you know, but it's nothing.
Yeah, but it's interesting what makes it to the greatest hits. Like, what is that? Like,
sure.
why? I mean, I guess in the same way that when I'm doing a set and a short set, I just go to my greatest hits. I just know they're going to get a better response.
Oh my God. Yeah. What, let me ask you a question. So the question I have for this is tell me a time, like, when did you know, what was one of your like moments in comedy where you were like, holy shit, like something's happening. Like this isn't just, it's, you know, this is a moment. This is where I know it's going to turn into something really positive.
Other than this.
Okay. Which is very sweet.
I got to open for Bob Hope in like 1995 for 5,000 people. And I got to meet Bob Hope. It was in Indianapolis. And I mean, I've had a lot of those moments, I guess, being on Letterman, because my colleagues used to say I would make him laugh. But there are just moments in your career that you go, this is real. Like, this is happening. And I have to pinch myself sometimes looking back on things that happened. Like, I got to open for Ray Charles, and I got to open for Anne Margaret and Neil Sedaka. And
really?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm making that up.
No, I love that.
Julio Iglesias. But I feel like I'm making up a lot of things.
I know it really just sounds like you're just naming some famous person. And it's like, yeah, I opened up for Mark McGuire. Mark McGuire just hit home runs, and I went up before him before he did batting practice.
Yeah. So what was the question?
Like, what is a moment that and you would say opening up for Bob Hope?
I think so. I guess and being on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, that was surreal. I remember I had been doing comedy 6 years, and the talent booker saw me and said, do you want to do the show? And I was like, okay. I still had a day job. And I remember flying back home because I had to go to work on Monday. And I remember thinking in the plane, I could die now and be okay. I'm glad I didn't die, because I realized there's more to life than that. But it was this moment where when I met Johnny Carson, I had watched him on TV for years, and it was like I was talking to a hologram. And I remember I had an uncle who was like this genius doctor, and he never paid that much attention to me ever until I was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. It was like, that was my seal of approval.
I love
I know.
that.
I know. He was proud of me then. I remember one time I was on Letterman and my mother told all of her friends to watch me. And somebody called the next day and said, she was wonderful. Meanwhile, I had been bumped.
She did such a good job. Oh, I saw you. You looked lovely. Yeah, that's hilarious.
What about you? When did you feel?
Oh, I don't know.
I know it's a hard question, Josh.
When I knew that it was, probably the first time I did the goddamn comedy. Well, no, even then, I still, my life has been different since then. And when I got New Faces, that was a big deal. And when I taped my first, television set, like all those moments were great. But it's only been recently that I've had success, and I've been independently successful since 2016, where I haven't had to have a regular job. But I still don't like, I don't know. It's like sometimes I still don't even realize that I'm doing it. And it's like, I don't, you feel like you're a part of the system and you're part of the machine, but I don't feel like I've made it. But in actuality, I've really made it, and I'm doing all this really cool shit. So it's kind of a daily, was it reprieve, or I think what they call it, or I'm so bad with words.
Make one up.
It's like a daily kaduki. You know what I mean? You gotta kaduki splooky sometimes, and you gotta manuki. It's totally.
Wait, what did you do for the Kardashians? What was that?
I was a PA for the first 2 seasons, so I worked very closely with them, and
I went to personal ass.
Yeah. But the thing was, it was like, this is before they were famous, and it was the first job I got. It was like literally the most famous out of them was probably Bruce at that time, when he was Bruce. When she, I don't know how to even fucking do that anymore. When she was Bruce.
When Bruce was.
Oh my God, am I gonna get canceled?
when Caitlyn was Bruce.
Yes, when she was still referring to herself as Bruce. But it was just watching that first season, which I had just moved to LA, and I was like, I was a mess. And then we started the second season, and that second season, once the first one was released, it just blew up, and just like the budget went up, and it was great, man. We traveled, went to Mexico, we went to Breckenridge, we went to New Orleans. And the cool thing was, I ran into one of the sisters.
Okay.
I ran into. Oh God, I wish I met OJ Simpson. Yeah, it sucks, man. He had to, he's innocent.
Oh.
So, I mean, according to the court of law, he did it. Yeah, I have a really funny OJ Simpson joke. I'm not going to do it because it's longer, but
I have time.
No. Okay. Maybe later. All right, I'll tell it to you later. Let's get through these. Let's get through a couple more songs, and then I'll tell it to you to end the podcast, okay? Because it's funny. At least I think it's funny. All right. For Emily, whenever I may find her, while likely written about his girlfriend at the time, Kathy, people have assumed the name Emily was a tribute to the poet Emily Dickinson, who had already been mentioned in the Dangling Conversation. The song of longing that Paul has said was less about the loss of a girl than a loss of belief. This is sung completely by Art, with Paul on a 12-string acoustic guitar. Beautiful song about loss. Thoughts on it?
I love this song, and I love when the songs are Art forward. I love when he's the voice.
Art has such a beautiful voice, like a way better voice than I think. And nothing against Paul.
And Stephen Wright. He has a better voice than Stephen Wright. No, I don't know. Sure. I don't know. I've never heard Stephen Wright sing.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair?
But yes, the Dangling participle song, or whatever, the Dangling Conversation, when he mentions Emily Dickinson, I think that's when I was like, that is pretentious. Like, I felt like it was a little too artsy.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know who it was written for Emily Was Written For. I don't know which Emily or Kathy it was written for, but I love that song.
Great song. Probably one of the more, just it's one of the most beautiful songs on the record. It's up there, I think, with Scarborough Fair.
Yeah. It's in my love pile.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Totally.
What is the, what is it that you love so much about Art's voice compared to like Paul's?
I love Paul's voice too. Don't get me wrong. And in the documentary, Paul was saying that his mother said, "You have a good voice, but Art has a great voice." And that always like inflamed his maybe competitiveness or desire to achieve on his own. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I went into comedy instead. But Art's voice is just, it's so pure and it's angelic. The song All I Know, which was his song, like not Simon and Garfunkel. Do you know that song?
Yes. Oh, I love it.
I just think that's one of the most beautiful songs ever.
Yeah.
And, in my deep dive, I found that his two children both are musicians, as are Paul's 4 children are musicians. They're all unique. But yeah, Art Garfunkel.
Great.
Delish.
Love. All right. A Poem on the Underground Wall, another song of desperation and rebellion. This was inspired by the cover photo shoot for Wednesday morning, 3 a.m. This is actually really funny. They had spent hours. Adam, pull up the cover for Wednesday morning, 3 a.m. This is their debut record. Now this is why it's extremely funny as you pull this up. They had spent hours in the subway station at 5th Avenue and 53rd Street, shooting hundreds of photos, trying to get the perfect James Dean shot. But they couldn't. Adam, you got it coming up? Because I wanted to see this while we look for it. Cut this for time. There we go. Perfect. All right. Can you kind of zoom in a little bit? Because I have it on super small. All right. So this is the shot. They realized though that all the shots were ruined because somebody had graffitied "fuck you" on one of the walls. So it had to be edited out. Isn't that great? Yes. Can you see if you can find it, the "fuck you" version? Adam, I don't know if it even exists, but can you see if you can find the "fuck you"? Have you ever been censored or had to deal with any controversies?
When I first moved to LA and I worked at the Improv a lot, Bud Friedman, who found me, he didn't like me saying the word fuck. But then over the years, he got lax about that. So, no, I don't feel censored. I censor myself. It depends on the audience. You can kind of tell if they're into it. I do remember saying fuck once, and there were like these nuns sitting in the front row.
Really? But I would never call you. I would never call you like, not even saying like dirty or like filthy at all by any means. But it's like, you're not really like edgy. So it's like maybe I think that's kind of why. I mean, I'm not saying if you say like you saying fuck will get a reaction because they're not expecting it out of you. So it's like if you do it at the right time, that's a huge laugh. Probably.
Right. I mean, my joke where my dad put a swear jar in our kitchen when I was in high school. I am going to go to my reunion, by the way. Thank you.
Go. Yes, of course. Please.
So my dad put a swear jar because my friends Patty Alberman and Grace Hirschhorn and I started swearing a lot. And so he put a swear jar in the kitchen. Every time we swore, we had to put a quarter in the jar. And then at the end of the year, we took the money and we went to the fucking Bahamas. And that is when I say fuck in my act.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I haven't. And that gets a huge laugh. And then I say it a couple of more times. But I've been known to swear a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're from New York. You're from Long Island.
you've probably seen clips, or if you've seen me at all, the clips are from TV. So no, I'm not going to swear there.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yeah.
But when it's right.
But I'm from Long Island.
How if you're somebody cuts you off, you're driving Calabasas, somebody it cuts you off. Do you cuss there, or do you just give the finger, or do you just push it down?
I don't have road rage. I have parking lot rage at Trader Joe.
Yes.
That's when I get angry. But I'm kind of zen about it. I think it might be a gender thing, because I know a lot of men who get very angry on the road. But I'm like, all right, unless I'm in a hurry.
Yeah, the parking lot at Trader Joe's might be the 7th layer of hell. Like, it's not. They built them all like on Indian burial grounds or something, right?
On little Indian burials,
like a little tiny one, but
right.
and a deal. They got a deal on it, and it was like red pepper hummus.
They traded for a little space.
All right, last song on the record, 7 o'clock Silent Night. This one was a little weird. I can't even. Morty wrote a word that I don't know. Basically, it takes the classic tender Christmas song with an. This is how dumb I am. I'm like reading it. I'm like, I don't even know. Interpolatus. I'm stupid.
It wove in.
It wove the classic tender Christmas song with a news broadcast created for the recording, which highlights many of the social issues of the day, like the war in Vietnam and the death of Lenny Bruce. Thoughts on that? Thoughts on how they end the record?
And it gets louder.
Yeah,
like the voice gets louder. So what I loved about this song is I love the song Silent Night. I'm a Jew who loves Christmas songs, and I sing them when I get nervous. But so I was thinking Art Garfunkel should just record an album of Christmas songs, because it's beautiful. But then I just thought he fucked it up with the news. I mean, I understand what they were saying. They were being political, and I feel like the artists at that time were trying to make statements and be politically aware and active. So I don't blame them. I don't love that.
No, look, a different time. I mean, everybody kind of in the folk scene was in a sense a part of the counterculture from what I have read. And, Dylan, a lot of his songs were very, against the war, and so I think they're trying to make a statement here. I understand what they're doing. It's not bad. But it's not my favorite way to end the record. I thought the record was great, and then you just do that. And you're like, oh, all right.
Right.
But not bad. It
wasn't as bad as the song Voices of Old People on Bookends.
Yes.
Old people at the zoo. Like,
yes.
What?
Hilarious.
But again, he was trying to be creative and use what was around him. And so I don't fault him for that.
No. All in all, good record. I'm trying to wonder if there's any question. Look here. This has nothing to do with Silent Night or anything, because Morty wanted me to ask you how political do you allow yourself to get in your act, but I don't want to talk politics. There's too much shit going on in the world. So I want to say, what is, we already talked about was a moment where you knew when something's happening in your career. What is your swan song moment in stand-up? What is the moment where you're like, it can't get better than this? This is your favorite moment so far in your career?
You mean other than this?
Shut up, dude. Don't do that. The joke worked the first time. But...
No, I'm being serious.
Wendy, Wendella.
What is my swan song? Like, what?
Like,
did it already happen?
No, not your swan song. I mean, that was maybe like, what has been like your utmost like favorite moment, or even you might have mentioned it, whether it was Johnny Carson or it was Letterman.
I don't think it's happened yet.
It's so
Is
sad.
that fair? Is that fair?
You've done
Why?
so much great shit.
Hey, you know what? I know. I'm not. Yeah, I agree. I've been very lucky and I feel proud, but I just don't think whatever it is has happened yet.
I love that.
Is
I
that
love
too
that.
vague?
Not at all. Not at all. All right, here's a better question.
Okay.
What's the first thing you bought with your money when you started making money? What's the first thing that like extravagant purchase you bought?
I actually bought clothing and I remember wearing it thinking, I bought this from money that I earned telling jokes to strangers that I thought up in my head in my bedroom. That was like mind blowing.
Isn't that insane?
So, yeah, what the big perch? I don't know. I can't think.
That's
What
perfect.
about you? What about you?
Oh man.
I know I'm not interviewing you, but I'm
I
just
got
curious.
I mean, I guess like I got my dog. That was the first real purchase, and my Dyson on the same day when I got my first Comedy Central money. You know, and then I guess I leased cars. I got a big deal is when I got my, I don't have it anymore, but in January 2020 I got a Porsche Macan S. It was like, so it's like a sports car SUV or sport utility vehicle, and it was like a goal to have it, and but I like hid it. I didn't get it to show off. I like literally got it for myself, and as like as a way to like celebrate the success that I'd been having. And then the world
Awesome.
shut down. It was great, but then the world shut down and I never drove.
Yeah,
it,
but
so.
you could use your Dyson then.
Yes, I have a new one at this point. I sold the other one to my friend.
Really?
I sold the other one to my friend Avery, which I feel bad because it, you know, that was back when I lived in a carpeted apartment in LA, and it was like, you know, just probably like poop particles and like from the dog, and you know, just it was bad.
Oh.
He bought it. I think he bought it for me for like $100, and then he had to throw it out. And so
I returned my Dyson the day after I got it. It didn't work. It
really?
just, yeah, I guess I got a lemon. So then I bought a shark. I cannot believe I'm talking about vacuum cleaners.
No, I get it. Here, let's wrap this up, baby. Look, because
Okay.
this was so much fun. This was so great. Thank you so much for coming on, Wendy.
My pleasure.
You're so much fun. All right, I ask these questions to everybody. What's your favorite song on the record? What is not meh?
Can I tell you my favorite song of Simon and Garfunkel's?
Sure, but then you got to do this record.
I will. My favorite song of Simon and Garfunkel is America.
Yeah.
I love that song. My favorite song on this album is Homeward Bound.
What's your least favorite song?
Oh, my least favorite song, I guess it would be Big Bright Green Pleasure Machine.
Okay. What this is you're so sweet. I'm gonna have to phrase this. Can you fuck to this record?
I only fuck to White Noise. I don't know.
You just turn on channel 001.
You could fuck to this record, but I would have to turn off Big Bright Green Pleasure Machine because that's just yeah.
It's a vibe. It's Scarborough Fair. Yeah, just start with Scarborough Fair. It's you know, even though it's like it's very you know, 1700s or whatever. it definitely
it's turkey leg.
It's turkey leg music. I think you can fuck to it. It's quick too. It's 21 minutes. You might be able to get through it. You might.
It's a beautiful album. I love this album. I'm so glad you made me listen to it.
Oh my God. Thank you. All right. What would be your way to, if you had to sum up this record to get somebody to listen to it, like how do you sum this record up?
It's beautiful, early Simon and Garfunkel. They take chances, but it's recognizable. You'll love it.
I love that. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on, darling.
Thank you,
we'll have you back,
Josh.
please. You're so great. And I'd love to see, come to the jam. We're doing the one July 21st. Come be a part of it. Do you sing?
Where is it?
To the Comedy Store.
I sing, but I used to sing, but then I smoked too much pot and
Nice.
ruined my vocal cords. But I did, like, I was always Eliza and Dorothy in plays.
Oh, I love that.
But in high school, I joined the choir and they taught me how to sign. I'm just doing material for you. Okay. But yes, I do sing.
All right.
I
Well,
did a fucking sing along.
you did. You did. Well, we'll stay in touch. I'd love to have you on sometime. All right. This
Thank
was
you
great.
so much.
My
I had
pleasure.
a great time.